Wellspring, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to another podcast here. This series is Real Life. I'm Brian.
And I'm Craig.
Nice. That was fun. That was good. We're going to dive into it. This is the second episode that we have. The first one, we were kind of really introducing the idea of what we mean when we say real life. And I think there's really a lot to that that we're going to end up unpacking through this series.
Yeah, there was a lot there. And we just cracked open the lid on that one. So
for sure.
A lot to talk about.
For sure. Mostly what we talked about is being vulnerability, which I think is the first step of being real with someone.
Isn't it?
Being willing to drop the mask and be vulnerable. But there's a lot to that. So we talked about it last time. This time, I thought it would be fun to get into something a little bit more practical when we're talking about real life. Sometimes I feel like I talked to someone just this week when it comes to whether it's business or relationships or life in general. It's easy sometimes to feel like you're just kind of drifting through it, you know, and there's all kinds of like cheesy motivational things that we could say right now, right? Like, there's all kinds of motivational stuff that comes to me on Instagram all the time. I don't know if your Instagram is full of like motivational.
Not a big Instagram guy, but anyway. Facebook for old dudes.
I get it. Yeah, but I get all this motivational stuff all the time, which is good.
Yep.
But maybe it's not the best. But sometimes it feels like easy to drift. Through your day.
Absolutely, and I think we look at the scriptures, and the scriptures don't talk about drifting. They talk about being intentional. They talk about having a path forward, about moving forward, about following that path, and of course following Christ and following God as we move through our day.
Yeah.
So there's lots of conversation about moving forward and how do we do that intentionally and not just drift.
Certainly, if you're a Christ follower, we've been given a mission by Jesus to be intentional about. So I certainly don't want to drift through that.
Right.
Much less when I have people in my life who I love and I care about. I don't like the idea of just floating and being stagnant and living that type of life. The friend of mine that I was talking to was talking specifically about his business and was saying, man, I'm busy. I've spent a lot of time. I've spent a lot of energy. I've spent a lot of money, and things are good. And I'm busy, but I'm really not feel like I'm moving anywhere.
Right.
I'm just kind of stagnant, which is not a great feeling to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that's where a lot of us have lived, and a lot of us still live there. Is this idea that being busy somehow makes us feel like we're making progress, but we're not, right? Yeah. And so how could we be more intentional and actually make some progress? I know this is an area that I'm talking to myself here. There's lots of things that I need to learn and do better, but it's just part of this improvement process of life, right?
Yeah, 100%. I would love, and I wouldn't want anybody listening to get the impression that I'm intentional all the time.
Yeah.
No, I would love to be more intentional.
Right.
But I find myself a lot of times just drifting, maybe in one area or the other. Like maybe if it's in the area of business or my job, I'm spending a lot of effort and energy here, and I just seem to not intentionally, it's by accident. There's other relationships, like whether it's my marriage or whether it's with my children or whether it's just with my friends, that I end up not being able to invest what I would want to in those relationships, and so they just kind of stagnate or float, which is again, it's not the type of life that I feel like we're called to, or that God has in mind for us at all.
Sure.
So I want to talk about 5 things that I do.
Let's do this.
Let's do this. Help me measure like my day. Mm-hmm. If I can try to do these 5 things, I feel like I've done a pretty good job today.
Okay.
Like I'm moving through life.
I'm excited to hear these 5 things.
Now, just a precursor on these 5 things. Yeah. This is not a prescription for you to do these 5 things. If you do these 5 things, what I'm saying is that you'll be as successful as I am. So if you want to be more successful, maybe there's other podcasts that you could listen to.
Right.
If you want to be like a multimillionaire or anything like that. I haven't accomplished that before. So we're going to talk about the 5 things that I've done.
Okay.
Or the 5 things that I do to help me kind of move through life. So the first thing that I want to accomplish is I want to get up early. That's what I want to do.
Wow.
I want to get up early.
Yeah.
Now, early is subjective.
Yes.
Early is a very subjective thing. So when I say get up early, I get up at 3:45.
Oh my
every
goodness,
morning.
man. No way.
I do.
3:45?
3:45 every morning. I get up and I just instantly do 100 push-ups. No, I don't. I get up at 3:45 and I go, okay,
This is really early.
I can do this.
Yeah.
And then I just get up and do
Okay.
it. So I think getting up early it is good for us.
Yeah.
Like it's good for you to get up early. I don't think it's necessarily super spiritual to get up early, right? I don't think that there's any sort of divine favor that happens to you if you get up early. I think actually there's a verse in Isaiah chapter number 5 where it says, "Woe to you who wake up early in the morning." And sometimes I feel that. But I think waking up early in the morning is like a really good habit to create.
Sure.
Because there's a part of me that wants to be lazy all the time.
Yeah. So I'm a 6 a.m. guy. I'm pretty good at 6 a.m. My alarm's set at 6 a.m.
Not a 3:45 guy.
Not a 3:45.
That's what I mean. But early subjective.
Yeah. I can typically wake up even without my alarm. I'm typically awake a few minutes before. I've got this kind of in that habit. But I'm lost count of the number of books I've read, podcasts I've listened to, or things that where studies have been shown over and over and over again that morning routine is the difference between a good day and a bad day.
Yeah.
That morning routine is one of the most critical things we can ever do. And I don't think it matters so much what the routine is, just that you have a routine and you get out of bed. And that first 1 to 2 hours, and it might be, having some quiet time, reading for a little while, doing some exercise, having some breakfast, having a shower, all those types of things. But that type of routine, if it's the same every morning, somehow it sets you up for having a good day.
Well, it's because it's that first step of being intentional.
Yeah.
I'm going to intentionally wake up at this time.
Right.
And it's almost like muscle memory at that point.
Yeah.
If I can be intentional and I'm going to wake up at this time, it kind of helps me set the tone for being intentional throughout the day.
Yep.
As opposed to like whatever happens the night before is going to dictate how I wake up or how I feel in the morning.
Yep.
That concept in and of itself is not one that you want to live your life by.
Right.
Just whatever happens is going to dictate to how I react. Or
So here's the day. Here's the new day ahead. Whatever's happened. I can't do anything about that. I'm not going to dwell in that, even though we have our pain and our even our happiness from the day before. But it's still a new day ahead, and I want to make this the best day I can moving forward. And so I'm going to be intentional about it from the beginning. Yeah, that's a really good.
And if you want to wake up early, if you're listening and you want to wake up early in the morning, you want to wake up earlier, do not set an alarm for 3:45 and just wake up in the morning. I'm not suggesting that you do that at all. But maybe like 15 minutes earlier. Just maybe wake up 15 minutes earlier, just with the intention of I'm going to get up early. Like that's what I want to do.
I just remember one other thing that I remember hearing too was that hitting the snooze button and going to sleep for another 10, 15 minutes actually really messes with your head and messes with your rhythm. So
it is my enemy.
Do not do it. No matter what.
The button is your enemy.
Get up.
Yeah.
Get up.
Andrew Huberman, is that his name? He'll probably tell you wake up when the sun comes up, like with the sun, and how it's good for your
and get outside and just
and all that. He has all that stuff, and you should probably listen to him. But I'm more of like a Jocko Willink guy. I'm going to set my alarm for 3:45, and I'm going to get I'm gonna get some.
Isn't he 4 or something? He's 4.
Yeah,
and a bit.
So Jocko Willink, if you don't know who that is, you can just Google him or search him. His Instagram.
He posts his watch every morning.
His Instagram he's an animal. It's just his watch at 4 o'clock in the morning.
There you go.
It's always 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's always like kettlebells on the ground or like a puddle of sweat. He's an animal.
There you go. All right.
I'm not Jocko Willink. Yeah, the second
Number
thing,
2.
obviously, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
The second thing that I like to do, I like to get up early. I like to find someplace quiet. And from here on out, the next 4 that we talk about, you don't necessarily have to do in order.
Right.
You just have to get up early. You got to do that one first. Yep. But
So don't need to do them in this order, but we would recommend you set an order and do it the same order for you every day, right?
100%. Keep this is just the order that I try to do them in. So the next thing that I want to do is to find someplace quiet. And for me, that's early. For me, that's easy at 3:45 in the morning, right? So
because everyone else is asleep.
Yeah. So my wife, she's a personal trainer, and so she is training someone, or typically having to train herself at 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we wake up so early, because we like to sit down in the morning and have a cup of coffee together and that kind of thing. And then she goes off, and then my house is quiet.
Yeah, nice.
Because I have 2 little girls,
Nice.
and this is my moment, right?
Nice.
And so find someplace quiet. And in that quiet, I think you have a couple things that you can do to be intentional about. And one of them is to maybe you want to pray, or maybe you want to get in the scripture, or maybe you want to just have some quiet time with God, whether it's journaling. So
3 things for me, would be read, pray, and write.
Mm-hmm.
And typically it's 15 to 20 minutes, and sometimes I'm not so good at the writing bit, but I do like to read and pray as best I can that time in the morning. But that 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes or so every morning is so critical.
Oh yeah, just to find someplace quiet. And you might think, I don't think you think this, because you know me pretty well. But if you don't know me super well, you might just imagine that as a pastor, I have like the most amazing quiet times in the morning, right? So it's like 4:30. My house is now empty.
How is it that we think pastors are somehow different?
All of a sudden, the worship music I don't even hit play; it just starts playing,
right,
and then it's just that's not how it happens a lot of times.
I've met a bunch of pastors, and they are just real people like all of us, and have the same struggles and the same issues and the same way of thinking about things, but they're just maybe a little bit more intentional on this particular one. So
for sure.
That's good,
So having that quiet time, and sometimes for me, it's literally just to be quiet.
Right.
Like I think the world around us is so noisy. My own brain is so noisy sometimes. It's good just to try to take a second and to be quiet and to sit in silence.
Right.
That's actually something I learned a couple years ago from a friend of mine.
That's good.
He had this amazing discipline of practicing silence, and he talked about it all the time, which is kind of ironic, talking all the time about being silent. Now that I say that, but it was really incredible to start to implement that in my life and see the results of quieting my mind, quieting my heart.
Right.
Because a lot of times I want to fill it with worry.
Yeah.
I want to fill it with, here are all the things I have to get done today, all this other stuff. And so that's not good for me.
Right.
And so to be intentional, to push out all those noises and just to sit in silence for a few moments.
Right.
There's enormous benefits to that.
So I mean, I find to spend the time reading and being, and then maybe writing and praying, but again, that sets the tone. It sets the intentionality for how my day is going to be going forward. And I wish I could tell you I did this every morning. I don't. But when I do, I have a good day.
Yeah. And I'm also not going to pretend like I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to practice silence.
Yeah.
And then I practice silence for a little bit too long, and the silence turns into snoring.
Snoring.
And I go, oh. That totally happens.
So here's the bottom line. Let's not be too hard on ourselves.
Oh.
We're going to take the time to have that silent time in the morning, and we're going to get better and better at it, and just not get so hard on ourselves when we make a mistake or when we don't do it as well or as good as we thought we could.
100%.
But it's such a wonderful time, and it's such an important time for us to have.
Yeah. The next thing that I like to do after waking up early, finding someplace quiet, I like to move something heavy.
Oh, so this is number 3.
Number 3.
Move something heavy.
Move something
All right,
heavy.
can we move on to number 4 quickly here?
I know, right? Like it's January, so like all the gyms are packed with new people.
For a few more days,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's fine.
And then,
like, it's fun. Yeah, it's good. I think that there is benefit to moving your body
I agree.
and doing something. For me, it's going to the gym. I enjoy doing that.
I agree.
I enjoy And again, moving something heavy, that's another relative term.
Sure.
Heavy is a relative term.
Sure.
It's actually probably not that heavy for if I talked about what I was moving.
So if I get up and walk, then I'm moving something heavy because I'm kind of heavy, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's perfect.
All right. So I'm going to get up and walk. I'm a little older, and I'll go for a walk.
I think again, it's really beneficial just to set that intention to say, I'm going to get up and I'm going to move something heavy, or I'm going to exercise.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something like that, because I think there's something to putting that intention to moving your body. One of the things that actually Paul talks about in the New Testament is he talks about moving his body into submission. But because what happens a lot of times, especially in our culture, it's easy to just kind of float, like we were talking about.
Right.
Just kind of float and let things happen. But Paul talks about discipline all the time in the New Testament.
Yep.
And something, I'll reference Jocko Willink again, something that Jocko talks about is how discipline is so much better than motivation.
Right.
Right? Like motivation is just a feeling that comes and goes.
Yep.
But discipline lasts.
Yep.
And so for me, moving something heavy, being active, doesn't mean like you have to go to the gym every day and you have to do all this other stuff. Like I'm not a personal trainer. I'm not going to prescribe to you a workout routine and this is what you have to do. And if you do these things, you're a good Christian.
Yep.
Like I'm not saying that at all. But I think that there's something to being intentional about moving your body and bringing that discipline into your life.
Yeah. So interestingly, just this morning, I was at a Rotary Club meeting, and we had a cardiologist, a heart doctor, come along speaking to us, and he was talking about this great technology where they put this new valve in people's hearts. But what he also said was that as they're doing this, they're finding out more about why people are living life longer. What do you do to not have to need the valve replacement? And so doctors and scientists are studying these things. And of course, exercise is one, our diet is another, but we kind of know these things intuitively, and we want to take care of our bodies, but it's something we just don't do particularly well.
Yeah,
At least I don't.
Yeah.
But having that intention of saying, hey, this morning, every morning, I'm going to just take a few minutes with it. Maybe it's 10, 15, 20 minutes. Maybe it's 30 minutes. Maybe it's an hour if you build up to it. But I'm going to take some little time to just move the body and get things moving. And it's great for our brains. It's great for our thinking, as well as being great for our body. Now, this is not easy, guys, but I've been in and out of this one. But I know when I do it and when I'm more consistent at it, that I do feel better.
Yeah, and there's tons of resources. I just went to lunch yesterday with a friend of mine who does this miracle morning thing where it's time that he writes, and it's a lot of the same concepts that we're talking about right now. But a portion of it is I want to move my body. I want to be active. Because there's so much value in that.
Fantastic.
So after getting up early, after finding someplace quiet, after moving something heavy, the fourth thing that I want to do that I try to accomplish every day is to learn something new. And learning something new is a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah.
Right? Now, with all the resources that are available with online or with podcasts that you can listen to, or with audiobooks, or if you don't have time for audiobooks, I'll tell everybody a secret that I use. I use this app called Blinkist.
I've got that one.
You got Blinkist?
Yeah, that's cool.
It's so good.
It
like
shortens
reading,
everything up.
It's like reading a book and really, really...
It's like Cliff Notes type thing, but just in... Yeah.
Cliff Notes helped me make it through high school, so why wouldn't I do that with
for your life? Yeah, I like it.
100%.
No, don't tell anyone that secret.
So
I'll just tell them I read the whole book. But
I've read that book.
Yeah.
I've done the same thing. I'm guilty of that. But Blinkist is awesome. It's so easy to learn something new now.
Yeah.
But you have to be intentional about it. You have to seek it out.
So there's so many people out there. So there's so many books and things. But so how do we know what to go to? Look, I think word of mouth, talking around, you can see what's ranking and what's rating on different pages and on Amazon. But there's so much value from listening to other people's ideas. That doesn't mean we have to agree with their other ideas, but in listening to other people's ideas, it helps me process my thoughts. It helps me be clear about what I'm thinking and where I'm standing on certain issues and how I'm going to do. I'm learning something new. And you can't do that in a vacuum. You can't do that on your own. You've got to go out and you've got to learn and read things from other people.
Yeah, you got.
Oh my goodness.
You got to seek it out. Yeah, good word on like listening to what other people think, because you again, you don't have to necessarily agree with them. And if I'm being honest, sometimes I disagree with myself. I don't know if I entirely agree with I might listen back to this podcast later and be like, I don't think that anymore. You know what I mean? But it is really important to try to learn something new.
Yep.
Because this is something that I've learned about personal growth in general. It doesn't happen by accident.
Right.
Like if I want to grow, if I want to develop, if I want to be a better pastor, if I want to be a better friend, if I want to be a better husband, if I want to be a better father, I am not going to do those things by accident. Right? It's not going to just come and jump on my back and all of a sudden I wake up one morning and I'm brilliant, or I wake up one morning and I'm the best husband in the world or the greatest father my daughters could have.
Right.
Like I have to be intentional about that.
Which means learning from other people, reading other ideas, massaging them, working them out, and really thinking about them and coming to your own conclusions and your own way of doing life. But you don't do that just by sitting in your own head. You've got to get those ideas from other folks.
And learning something new every day also takes the realization that I don't know everything. And I remember being in my 20s thinking I knew everything. I was an expert.
How is it that as we get older, we feel like it's like, I know less and less, man?
100%.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden I look around at people and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you don't know what you're doing either. You're just trying to figure it out. And so I don't want to figure it out on my own.
Right.
I want to learn new stuff.
There you go.
And so realizing I definitely need to learn more, because this growth that I'm looking for isn't just going to come and jump on my back. I have to find this.
You know, I used to travel a little bit, and whenever I traveled, you would buy these little travel guide books, or you'd look it up on the internet.
By the way, that was a very humble way of saying that. I used to travel a little bit.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I did. I've been to a few places. I've been very blessed, and yeah, it's taken me around the world. But whenever you go somewhere, you would look it up on the internet. And you say, hey, if you go to this place, this city, this town, whatever else, go and visit this thing, this thing, this thing. What are you doing? You're learning from somebody else who's been there before you. 100%. And that's the idea of reading a book, is that someone's been down a particular path. They've got something they want to put in writing. Yeah. And so they're going to have an idea that you can read that idea and learn from them, because they were there before you. Now, again, you may not agree with it. You may agree with it and help form your opinion, but you can't do this without listening to somebody else's ideas.
Well, and even at Wellspring, the way that we've even organized the church, so at Wellspring, we're an elder-governed church, so we have elders. So I get to serve as the lead pastor at Wellspring, but I'm surrounded by men who love me and believe in me and who know more than I know. And that's just part of trying to learn every day,
right?
Because I want to learn from the men that God has placed in my life to help me become a better leader, a better pastor, a better husband, and a better father. Yeah. So I want to try to learn something new every day. Yeah, it's not that hard. The information is out there. You just have to say, I want to do this.
Absolutely. Look, I love that Jesus had 12 disciples. Those guys just lived in each other's pockets. That they slept under the same tents and walked along the same roads together. And I'm sure there was some interaction and learning that happened from one another. We can't do life alone, and we can't. There's always opportunities to learn new ideas from other people.
Well, and that brings me really well to the fifth thing that I try to do every day, and this is really the hardest one. This is harder than waking up early.
Okay.
It's harder than finding someplace quiet and putting that habit into my life. It's harder than physical exercise.
Lifting something heavy.
It's harder than learning something new.
Learn something new.
The hardest thing to do is to bring someone close.
Ooh.
That's the last thing that I want to try to figure out how to do every single day is to bring someone close. Because it's so easy to just drift and go through life, move to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. We all have schedules. I have all kinds of things that I'm trying to do. It's easy just to get to the end of my day and then realize I did a lot of things, but I'm not sure if I did them with anyone.
Right.
I'm not sure if I really made a connection with anyone. And that could include my wife. It could include my children. Right. I was around them. We did things, but did I bring them close?
Yep.
Did I make any kind of real connection with them?
And for those introverts amongst us, it's like, oh, you mean I've got to interact with somebody else? No, I just want to be alone. But but there's value in, you're absolutely right, there's value in bringing someone close or being close, or even, as we talked about last week, about making yourself vulnerable so that someone else can be close to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's this last one of bringing someone close is probably the most important of all of them.
Yeah.
Because like we've talked about before, this life is not designed for us to live by ourselves,
Right.
to live on our own. It's really hard to learn anything that way, like we talked about. But it's almost impossible to live the type of life that Jesus has for us to live in a vacuum by ourselves. Like you can't do that. But there's a handful of reasons why I might not want to bring someone close, and I would say, well, I'm just busy.
Yeah, I got a book full of reasons why.
Yeah. I have all these reasons not to.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I have to set the intention
Right.
of I'm not going to live by myself. Like
Right.
I'm not gonna live this life on my own. Because for a handful of reasons, but one of them, what we talked about right at the beginning of this podcast. I'm a Christ follower. I've been given a mission
Yep.
to love other people,
Yep.
right? To love God with all my heart, and with that love to extend it to other people around me. I can't do that by myself.
Right.
I can't do that at a distance.
Yep.
Like I can't love you at a distance. I have to be willing to pull you closer, to come close to you. And so there's some reasons. Again, like I said, I might not to. You might hurt me.
Right.
Or if I'm being really honest, I might be having a bad day and I might hurt you, and I don't want to do that.
I know one of the things that I've always struggled with is that, hey, if I let you come close, and you get to know me, then you might not like me.
Yeah, you won't like me. Yeah.
Because there's things about me that I'm not real keen about myself, right? So there's this idea that I'm just going to keep everyone's arm's distance, and that's not what life is meant to be about. This we talked about last week is that idea of being vulnerable, but there's so much joy in a relationship that is open and honest and vulnerable, and where we get to know each other's good things and bad things all together.
Yeah.
And that has to be intentional.
Yeah, and ultimately that putting that intention in my life gives me the opportunity to live the life that Jesus wants to live through me.
Yeah.
But like I can't have Jesus love you through me at a distance.
Right.
Like I have to be willing to
be
get
close. Yeah.
I have to be willing to be open and vulnerable to you. And in that process, it's an opportunity for the love of God to be shown to me.
Yeah.
And through me at the same time.
Yep.
And ultimately, as a Christ follower, that's what I'm after.
Right.
I want that experience.
I love that two-part thing. It's like, I'm not just doing this for you. I'm doing it for me. There's benefit for me and you. There's benefit for both of us here.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we spend time together and we're close and open.
Yeah. But because
this is hard.
Because I want that relationship with my spouse. I want that relationship with my children.
Yeah.
Like I don't want my children just to experience like, they had a good time with dad. Yeah. Like I want my children to know that I love them, not because of my good behavior, but because they experience God's love from me.
Right.
Like that's what I want for my kids. That's what I want in my marriage. That's what I want in my friendships. I want people to experience God's love, because God's love is better than mine.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want people to experience. But the only way they do that is by that closeness.
Man, that's huge. That's huge. That was a hard one. That number 5. Okay, can we just have a 4-point list here? Can we drop number 5?
Yeah, drop the last one. Yeah. So if you want to be as successful as Brian, what you need to do is you need to wake up early. You need to pull you need
have
to
some quiet time.
Yeah, find someplace quiet, lift something heavy, learn something new, and bring someone close. Yeah. Those are the 5 things that I try to do every day. I don't knock it out of the park.
That's 5 great things.
But yeah, if I can do those 5 things,
you could be intentional about that.
I feel like I'm not stagnant in life. I feel like I'm moving through life.
Right.
And that's without setting any goals or anything like that. There's all kinds of different metrics that you can measure how you're moving through life. Sure. I think the most valuable metric for me as to if I'm moving through life is how am I loving other people the same way that God loves me. I want to ultimately bring someone close and do that. Yeah. And all those other steps really just help me do that last one.
Yep.
And so that's,
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's 5 really good things.
Nice.
I'm going to try them.
Wow, rock and roll. Let's do it. Awesome, guys. Thanks for tuning in with us. This was a fun conversation. Why don't you hang out with us this weekend at the Bear Levin Studer YMCA. Wellspring gathers and has our Sunday services there at 10 a.m. I will see you there. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.